Anthony Levy. I'm the founder and chairman of an organization called Circularity First. Very briefly, as an introduction, we've been, as an organization, going for about 15 years, and we provide technology solutions historically. But in the last 4 or 5 years, we've taken our own journey in becoming sustainable to actually turn that into a consulting and advisory practice where we help other organizations go on the journey to become more sustainable. So when I talk about this today, I'm going to be talking about our own examples of our own journey through this, but also some of the examples of our customers. And we really believe of eating your own dog food here, certainly if you're going to start preaching to others. So we've been certified by people like EcoVadis, and we're rated as one of the top 1% of companies worldwide from a sustainability point of view. I always think you have to be a bit careful about how you say how sustainable you are, because it's almost impossible to be completely sustainable. So we're always talking about motions, we're always talking about a journey. But as an organization, we largely operate across UK, Europe, and the United States. Enough about me. So when I was invited to join this webinar, three things immediately came to mind in terms of how to accelerate your engagement with your teams. The first is commitment. The second is permission, and the third is consistency. So commitment, I would argue, this is one of the most important things. It's been touched on, but the greater and the stronger the commitment you can get in your leadership teams and as the organization as a whole, the more engagement you're going to get. It kind of sounds obvious, but if someone sort of set a token net zero goal by 2040, very loosely trying to put a little bit of energy towards it, everyone in the organization can sense that. But how do you increase commitment? How can you get an organization really, really committed, bought in, fixed on making big impacts here? For us, this typically starts with really understanding the drivers across all stakeholders. So rather than just saying, "Oh, we're doing it because regulation says so," or "We're doing it just because our customers say so," actually looking across all stakeholders. So we would run a workshop with a client and actually get them to think about the impact of sustainability in society, what it means for their customers, what it means for their suppliers, what it means for their shareholders, and sort of anticipate what's going to happen from a regulation point of view, and really try and combine those things together to build the business case for sustainability. Okay, so rather than just seeing sustainability, as some organizations do, as a thing they kind of have to do, it's regulatory driven, actually moving it to the point where it's understood as a driver for growth, as a driver to increase the value of the organization. Okay, so that's where what we've seen work. It's also important to think about alignment, because if it's just a sort of pet project of the CEO, and he hires one person and they're sort of just sent a goal and a remit, you're not going to get that commitment across everyone. So it just needs to be across the leadership team or the management team, really deeply understand, why are we doing this? And that shouldn't just be because it's the right thing to do. It has to somehow tie into the overall drivers, goals of the business. It's got to be wrapped into core strategy if you really want to go far and fast with this. This business case, and I think sometimes we're a bit uncomfortable talking about making money whilst being more sustainable, as if those two things can't coexist. If you can't find some way for there to be a relationship here, you're always going to have that tension of, oh, is this going to cost money, or is it a distraction? Like, I would suggest you go hard at this early in the journey, prove to the business that there's a real genuine business case for sustainability. And of course, we've talked about it, but it is very important that you set goals and measures and you do this publicly. But the reason why I mention this again is I would encourage people not to think very narrowly, not to just talk about carbon. Carbon is really, really important, right? Don't misunderstand me. But if we're going to talk about sustainability, we're going to talk about trying to engage the whole organization. It's very useful to look at things like the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. They're very broad. If any of you looked at them, there's 17 different areas that are talked about. And if you turn that back to an organization, as one of our clients did, and actually say to the organization, which of these do you care about? Which of these do you think as an organization we can impact, or perhaps we do impact in the negative way and need to reduce? you give people a chance to choose the areas that they're most passionate about. And then inherently you're building in more engagement. Of course, a lot of people will care about climate change, and they should. There's many other things that people probably should to put together to build this business case, get alignment and get engagement. So that's what I say about stronger commitment equals stronger engagement. Now, the second thing that's really crucial, and what we've seen both in our own business and across our clients, is giving permission. Now, this might sound like a bit of a bizarre thing to say, but if we're going to ask the organization to change, if we're going to ask individuals to put in some discretionary effort to help us on this journey, we find it's useful to express it in terms of sort of high challenge, high support. So we're setting this challenge on top of my day job, in which I'm doing all of these things. You're asking for more. What do I get in return? So permission often comes in the form of training, which Beatrice touched upon. It can also be in terms of giving people some time. Most of us didn't wake up one day climate experts. So not only do we need to do some training, we need time to explore. We need time to ask questions, to bump into things, to build passion for sustainability, right? And we've also got to give people permission to care. Now, that might sound funny, but in most organizations, we're quite driven by profitability or budgets, about the money, right? So we've got to give people permission to care about more than that. We had a great example in one of our clients where historically the sales team in their organization was seen as what they called coin operated. It was all about just putting the right sales incentives. The sales team people will be happy. They'll sell lots of products and services, and the organization will do well. Now, fun enough, because that's what they'd all been told and what they'd their lived experience. That's how the salespeople felt about their job. They were only happy if they were selling more things. Now, interestingly, this same organization's been on a journey. They've really taken sustainability to heart in the organization. They've given their teams permission to build teams, to work on different areas of sustainability. And now they have reports back from their sales team who are motivated by very different things. They've given permission to go after this, and you've got salespeople who are saying they now have much deeper and more passionate relationships with their kids because they're talking about how they're leaning in to try and solve some of the world's biggest problems. It's a very different conversation to have with your child or a friend, that you're doing something for society rather than, oh, I just sell things to make money. But you don't underestimate how important it is to give that permission to your teams to do that. And whatever context that you decide, but that permission needs to be given clearly and freely if you want them to pick up the baton for you. And if you want really significant change in an organization, my suggestion and what we did internally is give that permission to every single person. That's not just a team, that's not just a couple of individuals, that is every single person is given permission to learn, develop, and spend time on going on this journey. Now, of course, that's not their whole week. There is other parts of the organization that need to drive on, but a little bit of time every week to learn, develop, and actually contribute, and allow and push down kind of responsibility for decisions in this space. Give them permission to actually make change. In our own business, we had, I think, 4 different groups that were running, cross-functional groups, and we took out the traditional leadership structures and we let them self-govern, and in their areas, they can make decisions. It could be on packaging of our products. It could be on the products that we buy that we need in our company to clean things or whatever. And if you actually stop and let other voices come to the surface, if you give permission for that, you give so much autonomy and energy to people that you massively increase engagement and you massively get change. And people that might have thought, oh, well, I'm just a warehouse person, I pack boxes, are spotting really good ideas and making really significant changes that add up to really big impact. So permission is key. We talked about training, and I said that it is key that you include everyone in this journey. And B already talked about this, but the success stories are really important. As I said, we in our organization took that person who thought they just picked and packed boxes, and we got them to play back the decisions that their team made. We got them to play back the impacts that they created. And you could just see this person on a webinar like this grow. And they became somebody who started skeptical and ended up being one of the most passionate people in our organization for driving change. So the third and final bit I just want to finish on is consistency. Um, you know, it's it's very easy to throw out some goals. Most companies now, certainly in our segment, and we serve kind of largely the technology industry. We help telecommunication companies, managed services organizations, broadband companies. We help them integrate this into core strategy. But what's really clear is it's very easy to set a goal, but real impact happens a little bit over time. So consistently is got to be in how often you talk about it in team meetings, how you recruit from it. I mean, personally, we found our ability to attract talent, our ability to fill roles in our organization changed massively as soon as we made part of our process. Firstly, talking about in the job description that we care about sustainability and we've got real big ambitions for it, but even including it in the questions that we asked people that we were hiring. So, it's got to start with talking about it in hiring, in rewarding it. If you want significant change, it's like anything else in culture or in marketing, it's got to happen in all levels in every conversation. And for us, the biggest shift came when we didn't just talk about doing this for ourselves. We started talking about changing what we offered for our customers. And fundamentally, that made us look at ourselves and make sure we were doing everything right. But it really forced us to be consistent in everything that we did, because most organizations are very driven in terms of how they serve the customer. If you start changing what you offer to customers, you'll naturally become much more consistent in terms of how you see sustainability and how you deliver sustainability. And the final bit, it's obvious, but tracking against goals. Again, I think sometimes this is done quite sort of behind doors. It's teams are kind of given the remit. You grab the data, we report it back, and it's not very transparent. What we've seen in customers and also our own business, you get much more progress towards goals if everyone can see where you are in progress, that it's transparent about what's been hard or what the successes were. But again, going back to the previous point, that everyone feels like they can do something to move the dial, so they can see their impacts in terms of the progress that's being made against those goals. So, consistency is really key. Incorporate it, make sure it's in all of the communications. It's in when you're hiring, when you're rewarding. Really make sure it's present in whatever you talk about. It might take some time to pick up everyone in your organization, different programs, different campaigns, but slowly you'll build a kind of critical mass. But you'll get that through consistency, and certainly by the time you start engaging customers, your organization will really know where it's going and really be passionate to move forward. So as I said, it's commitment, it's permission, and it's consistency.